On the like live element first, the Jack and Gino now are streaming their show live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, consistently. And they talk a lot about how it's not necessarily about how many like concurrent viewers they have, but it's like the energy that being live brings, and how then that, in their opinion, creates just such stronger, more authentic content that whether you listen to it after or you watch a clip, that's not really the point. It's more about like the nature of that experience in the content creation process that also is really, really hard. So I don't think it's necessarily like if you're not going live, you're doing it wrong. I don't think that's the case. Jack and Gino are two of the most like energetic people I've ever met. So them being live like makes complete sense for them and really works with how they want to run the business. But that doesn't mean that every creator necessarily needs to follow that path as well.
Hip replacement, episode number 66. Kyle, does 66 have any significance to you?
Not really. Maybe Route 66 somewhere within me, but like that doesn't mean anything to me either. That feels that at this point is just something that I feel like you would see on a like shitty printed sign that you could get at a Kmart or Big Lots and like put it in your kitchen and look funky in the 90s, but not anymore. Actually, no, maybe there's a light. I forget about this because I lived in LA for a long time, and there's a bunch of signs on Santa Monica Boulevard that say Route 66 because technically that is the end of Route 66. So I have a light relationship to that after I just made fun of it. So like, yes.
I mean, listen, this is how, if you recall, Ed Ruscha, the artist, drove from between Venice, where his studio was, and Oklahoma City, where he grew up, was along Route 66, and that's where 26 gasoline stations, his famous photo book, which started the artist photo book, and also many of his other road trips were taken from. Interesting. Okay, cool.
If you're listening, Ed, come on the podcast. Or Ed, if your son's listening, come on the podcast.
Eddie, come on the pod.
Yeah, Eddie,
whichever. Eddie Ruscha. All right. Well, listen, that's enough of that. We have our own guest today, who is Jenny Rothenberg. Kyle, Jenny is the founder of Smooth Media, which is an agency that works with creators. But aside from that, I have to tell you, I'm, lacking in the information as usual. So please do her the honor.
Yeah, well, Smooth Media is doing some cool stuff helping creators scale. So I think it sort of represents a new sort of way of working with creators. And I think, I'm forgetting if this is in an email or something that I read, Jenny, I think it's something you said, but basically starting to help build a quote unquote middle class, let's call it, of creators and helping to really build out what they do beyond just like, the Mr. Beast of the world, the people at the top and, the people who are starting out, trying to help build out that infrastructure of experts in the middle in a way. I might be butchering that, but that was what I sort of remembered you mentioning, and sort of like that really resonated with what I know you guys do in the bigger picture.
Definitely. No, that's certainly an angle toward it. I've seen so much talk about the creator economy, but a lot of it is really focused on those like top 1% creators, which are awesome. And, them building massive empires is great. And I think there should be a ton of coverage around it. But what we also believe is that there's, what we tend to focus on is knowledge creators. So these are creators who are experts in particular areas, whether it's tech, business, finance, cybersecurity, HR, design, all of these different niches. We really believe that there's infrastructure to be built so that they are really able to build amazing businesses as well that may not get as many headlines as the Mr. Beast and Alex Coopers, but are really awesome businesses in their own right.
Totally.
Is there a it's kind of a fascinating way of qualifying people who are, subscale, but also, potentially able to keep themselves, in a comfortable lifestyle by creating. Is there like a sort of a cutoff or a number? Like, how do you qualify who qualifies?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We actually get this question a lot and have no numerical answer, honestly, to give you, because we've signed creators who had less than 10,000 followers who are in, amongst some of the top earners of creators that we represent. And that really tends to be because really based on the niche that they're operating in, what is less about the scale of their audience and more about how high quality are they, how premium are they, how hard to reach are they, and are there a lot of brands and companies in their space who are spending in creator marketing and really believe in it, and then are able to really sort of like power their business, because reaching that audience is so valuable to the companies.
Give us an example. What's a very valuable audience, for instance?
For example, the marketing and advertising audience, a little meta for this audience here, but the marketing and advertising space, I think, especially in B2B marketing, which is really where like most of my background is in. We've seen a lot of it before, whether it's like the trade publications, the conferences, webinars or ebooks, things that kind of have become a little bit stale. A lot of these B2B marketers are realizing there are so many great experts in the advertising and marketing world. A few that we represent are Breaking and Entering, these guys, Jack and Gino, who kind of do shorthand, I'll say, is like the TVPN marketing and advertising. Familiar with them.
Shout out to Jack and Gino. Anyway, yes. Sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
Oh, no, they're incredible. And so we also represent Eugene Healy, who's an incredible brand strategist, Rachel Lowenstein, sure. A lot of these who are true like practitioners and experts in their space. And there's a ton of, marketing and advertising companies who are really trying to, break through and do interesting things with their marketing to then appeal to marketers. And so are really seeing the value of partnering with Smooth and with these content creators.
I guess one of the reasons I ask is because we are all familiar with the truism, riches are in, there are riches in niches, thereabouts. And just understanding where some of those niches are and how big they get before they get understood more widely. And you then have a giant company come in and try to outcompete. It feels like a smart strategy. And so anyway, I'm just interested in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's, within the business world, obviously that's the world we're in, is these B2B niches, but I think it's really a broader trend on the internet more widely, where everyone is sort of finding these different pockets that appeal to their interests. Everyone's feed looks completely different based on what type of cooking content you want to see, whether you want fashion content. Like there are so many different, channels and places to go to get exactly the content that any individual wants to see. And it applies in, the B2B world as well.
Yeah, Kyle, it's kind of like, sorry.
Well, I was just really quickly. I think we're going to go to the same spot, honestly, but it's interesting that the B2B world has become Figma shirts. No, that's what I was going to say. But it's interesting that B2B has become such a unexpectedly sexy space. Mm-hmm. And I say that because having worked in marketing and looking at jobs and working with people who work in these spaces, B2B is not sexy. It did not used to be sexy. And then all of a sudden you have people like Charlie XCX talking about marketing, and the marketer sort of taking this cultural space of I don't know. I think maybe that they have sort of been absorbed what formerly the buzzy strategist has been. I think now it's just the idea of anybody who works in marketing has become such a tastemaker type person, which is a very, do I love that? I don't know. I'm technically in that world, but I don't know if I love that, because I feel that has sort of taken the energy out from real artists, which I think is a confusion of, say, audiences, especially if Charlie XCX is talking about marketing is yo, be an artist, please, we need you. But this also crashes into, again, hashtag Figma shirt, is the culture of B2B swag. There was a really great story in Inc. last week, I think, or maybe it was early in the month, about the rise of these tech companies, just brands in general, selling their swag. And that's everything from, again, the Figma shirt to the Palantir short coat to all the myriad things in between that, range from beauty products to typically fashion, but they are lifestyling things that doesn't need to be lifestyle. I don't know, but it's the brands are becoming streetwear. It's a weird something. But anyway, Ben,
I'm wearing my open AI socks right now. Jenny, no, actually, I was not going to the Figma shirt. Okay. I was going to the idea of this Fast Company story that we shared in the chat about how Gen Z is making Instagram into LinkedIn, And what I was curious about was like how you advise, or how you would advise people in your, like your, stable, let's call it, but in the creator space more generally, about how to think of platforms as distinguished or non-distinguished from one another, right? Like clearly you can do LinkedIn on Instagram and you can do Instagram on LinkedIn, but that doesn't mean you should, right? And so I'm curious, like how you view that malleability.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I've been even very surprised by how it's evolved. So, like, when we started Smooth 5 years ago, Instagram wasn't even a word we said. Like, it was not on our radar at all of like where we thought content creators were going. Like, short form video wasn't really as prominent in B2B, especially just yet. So, we were really focused. This was 2021. We were like newsletters and podcasts, and we're just starting to really understand how this more like B2B knowledge creator works on YouTube. And then over the past few years, especially like Instagram and YouTube are like a close 1-2 for our top channels for where our creators are building their audience and monetizing. So it's definitely changed a ton. And I think it will continue to do so. I think it's just a matter of being understanding for each creator, like where they want to be, each type of person. And I don't think there's a singular right answer, but trying not to like dilute and be in too many places without, having a real purpose for each.
That being the case, is there any platform that they can't not do?
I mean, we're always going to be bullish on like long form YouTube. I think I think it's very hard to do long form YouTube, which is why I think it has the most like staying power and sustainability, and it creates the deepest relationship with your audience. We do represent and work with a ton of creators who do not have long form YouTube, but the ones they're always, because they see their creator peers as well being like, I know I need to figure out long form YouTube, but I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm a great short form creator, or I have this awesome newsletter, I have this awesome podcast, but I feel like long form YouTube will always kind of be like the holy grail.
All right, Kyle, we got to get a long form YouTube strategy.
I know. What don't we need to do? We need to be doing every fucking thing.
That is true. Well, to that, and well, speaking of things that we have done, Jenny, sorry, we're just going to use this whole half hour. We're going to ask your advice on everything. The one of the things that we have done for hip replacement, both because it was a sort of fun, easy to action opportunity, but also because we were really interested in to see what the quality of interaction was we've recorded a couple of live podcasts. How does live figure into like what Eugene needs to do, for instance, or what Jack and Gino need to do at Breaking and Entering? I know that Breaking and Entering guys have done live stuff because I've been a part of some of it, but
Eugene too, like curious that all the time at like speaking
I haven't
wherever.
seen that, but
I'm to that point, like I'm curious, like are you guys facilitating that? How does that work?
Sure. Yeah. So just on the like live element first, the Jack and Gino now are streaming their show live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, consistently. And they talk a lot about how it's not necessarily about how many like concurrent viewers they have, but it's like the energy that being live brings, and how then that, in their opinion, creates just such stronger, more authentic content that whether you listen to it after or you watch a clip, that's not really the point. It's more about like the nature of that experience in the content creation process that also is really, really hard. So I don't think it's necessarily like if you're not going live, you're doing it wrong. I don't think that's the case. Jack and Gino are two of the most like energetic people I've ever met. So them being live like makes complete sense for them and really works with how they want to run the business. But that doesn't mean that every creator necessarily needs to follow that path as well.
But you feel like live is a part of the ad mixture, or is it an outlier?
I would say it's becoming more, as more and more people are doing it, the brands are starting to understand, okay, this is the value I'm getting out of it. Like that was a learning process, honestly, for us as well, is, okay, Jack and Gino, are now going live every day. How can we make sure that the sponsorship product really actually aligns with that experience and is able to really have legs beyond the 2 to 3 hours for which they're live? How do we make sure that it also doesn't impede, the content experience, and taking all of those factors into account? But we feel pretty confident in how we figured it out. I think it will continue to evolve. It's just, I think like anything, we really try to lead, like, of course, like what is the best content experience for the audience? And then we're going to figure out how do we best integrate the brand into this and making sure that it's leading with that content first experience.
I was going to say content first. That is a very digitally, quote unquote, digitally native term that we're using.
Mm-hmm.
That is then, I assume, different than like, hey, which is different than, you know, breaking entry and doing like, oh, like you guys should do like a live show at whatever the fuck hotel down the street and like get your audience together, which is also very different from speaking at Cannes. So like is how like it sounds like content is center versus say like the diversity of community expressions. Does that make sense? Like, or is that something you're also thinking about too? Is like, guys, you guys should do a happy hour with like marketers, like things like that.
No, this is like very much in line with the things we talk about too, is the ability for a creator to actually command a room. And whether it's Eugene giving, I think he did something like 10 or so panels at Cannes Lions, which was insane. And he, you know, when he walks into the room and he gets on stage, you notice the difference. Everyone puts their phone down and locks in. Like his ability to do that stems from his incredible expertise and the way that he has been able to distribute that and really build such a presence in the industry. And that is so valuable as him as the business owner of his content creator business, right? Where it's like that then allows him to go on more stages, host his own events, and because he has such a hold over his audience. And similar to Jack and Gino, we've really been formalizing what is the breaking and entering event IP and how do we make this consistent and scalable. So we've started to put on a few what we're calling like after hours, which are typically alongside other major industry events. We did one like last month at like the Russian Piano Bar in Midtown. And then later this year, I believe if we locked in either October or November, their first true live show that's going to be in New York City, recording it live, ticketed event. Sponsors will have a whole like night and party after it and really having this great like gathering of the industry type moment where Jack and Gino are, you know, on stage and bringing in a bunch of amazing guests, but it's really about how they're able to command the room. It's not going to be 10,000 people. It's going to be 150 people who are really, really important in this space and are, you know, admiring and excited by the idea that they can all be in one room because of the allure of Jack and Gino.
Sure. I'm curious because what you just described is on the one hand, smart, logical, strategic, bound to be successful. On the other hand, not at all like a new approach to things, right? Like the idea of taking a piece of IP, taking it on the road, having the right audience in front of it, and then figuring out how to dimensionalize that is very much the kind of entertainment super format playbook.
100%.
Who do you look at and go, Jack and Gino, to get them in the right headspace? Like we should be doing what X is doing or what Y is doing. Is there anybody that you feel like is real superstar at that level?
Yeah, well, first to just touch on your point of this isn't new, I completely agree. And I love telling people that because I think there are so many like creator economy think boys who are acting like this is brand new and media has never existed until like, this
that
very
should be reassuring. Moment. Yeah, that should be reassuring that like this is like, there is a playbook that we can tap into quite easily, especially in that B2B space. Like, come on. Yeah,
100%. Like my background is I worked at a very like B2B media company that had publications about the waste and management recycling industry, the construction industry, marketing, retail, biopharma, education. Like it was all about industry publications called Industry Dive.
Specifics, yeah.
And then after that went to Morning Brew where, you know, it was more general business news, but then we launched Retail Brew and Marketing Brew, you know, very much running the same playbook. And everyone thought like respectfully, like, oh, Morning Brew is like reinventing media. And I'm like, we're not. We're actually very much not. We're just doing it differently with a new spin on it. And that's what we really like to bring to this creator and talent world is we really think like media operators. That's why our name is Smooth, because it came from like the smooth operator idea of like, we think like media operators, that's like funny. Entertainment and talent managers, respectfully, who are at like the 3-letter agencies who think that managing a content creator is the same thing as managing Brad Pitt. It's just not. It's a completely, they are running a business. Their needs are different. Their business opportunities are completely different. And you need to think of them like if that is a creator's aspiration, is to build a true business, then you have to treat it like that. And that's really how, like, the way we attack like building out infrastructure for knowledge creators is to think like a media company.
Did you
realize I didn't answer your question there, so
No, it did. I mean, where it takes me to though is like, is there somebody? So, for instance, we've got this, Forbes 2026 top creators list, right? Or there was the Time 100 top creators or whatever it was, and I wonder if like you look at somebody like friend of the show Kareem Rama and go, all right, so Kareem is doing it right because he's doing it on his own terms, and he's also like obviously being quite successful with it and obviously leaping from space to space. Or alternately, if you look at, I don't know, let's say like a Scott Galloway or somebody like that, and you go, all right, well, that the business there might be above the line through the media, but it might also be actually through agency services and through sort of below the line kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm just curious.
No, for sure. I mean, I think the fun part is like, it's kind of a non-answer, but it's like, there are so many ways to win. And I think that everyone is getting distracted by being like, we have to coach creators through this all the time where they're like, that creator launched a course, I have to launch a course because I love that creator. And it's like,
no more courses. No more courses, please.
Yeah.
Please, no more courses. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I talked so many creators out of launching courses. It's a hobby of mine at this point, but no, I think that is what makes it cool is like, yeah, Scott Galloway is now probably leaning a little more talent forward. He still has Prof G Media and he's building an actual company. Another company I love is John Boy Media. That's a creator first sports media company focused on baseball. They are really built out a true company. It is beyond the single creator. And I think that's how I personally just like to build, but that is not necessarily how maybe like Kareem wants to build and keep growing. And that makes complete sense for him because he's entertainment and incredible talent and will, continue to build amazing IP wherever he goes to do it. And has so much leverage because he's so good at that. So I think, there are so many different ways to succeed. I think it's what the advice we honestly have to always give the creators that we're managing. And when we're just, talking to creators in the industry is like, at a certain point, you do have to like stop looking over your shoulder and just align on the path that you think makes sense for you. The actual basic like fundamentals and the principles of what makes a good media business aren't really changing that much, even though everyone is kind of telling you it is. It's really not. And if you just kind of like stay locked in on what feels like aligned with your interests, aligned with your niche, aligned with how you want to live your life, then we can, make it happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kyle, one thing, or sorry, Jenny, I will just say this about Kyle. I think he is absolutely amazing at spotting the people who matter in this little universe of, let's call it, trend and, marketing and so on and so forth. Right. And it's one of the things that's been such a joy about this show is that I get introduced, because I'm an old guy, dumbass. I get introduced to all of these really interesting young people all the time. So I know a little bit about what Kyle's A&R strategy is. What's yours? Like, where do your potential clients come from? Not to give away any trade secrets, but I'm just
no, for sure. There are no secrets. Honestly, we actually did this exercise a couple months ago where we looked at our full roster of like 50, 60 creators and wrote down how we found each and every single one of them. And
cool. Okay,
there was no through line. Once again,
Really?
It was a complete mix of creators we just followed as human beings, and then either their content shifted or as we grew, we felt more like we could warrant the right to send them a DM. So it's like people, like our whole office is following knowledge creators and sharing them with each other all the time. So that's really a huge way we find them. A lot of creators are friends with each other and talk about their management companies. So we're very fortunate that a lot of the creators we represent have recommended us to other of their creator friends. And then others have just found us because, they see our email address and creators they admire bio, and then they look like, oh, what's Smooth Media? And then they reach out. So it really has been a mix. But when we're looking at sort of like what makes that good fit, if we're just scrolling, is really we want to see that there's a true expertise and like that you have something to say. I think especially in the past year or so, there's now so many yappers, if you will. No disrespect to the yap. We represent amazing, great yappers. But are you actually saying something that is original, or is it kind of a regurgitation with a really great content hook? There's a really fine line between those things, and making sure that we really prefer people who were true practitioners in the space that they are talking about. If you're talking about entrepreneurship, we'd so much rather that you have truly launched and sold your own company than you just talk about building your own whatever it is, in a more abstract way. So those are kind of the things we're just really looking for.
I was going to say, how do you define expertise? Because it sounds like that's exactly it. Is that like someone who has sort of walked in those quote unquote Louboutins before? It's not just someone who is like, oh, I'm a critic of this fucking thing that I have no idea
I'm
about.
a fancy critic, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, have you scrolled on TikTok? That is,
yeah
I love TikTok for that, but also that's TikTok.
And sometimes it is scary because you're like, wait, what is this person's qualifications? And you see like all these likes and comments being like, yes, girl, love it. And I'm like, wait, I don't know if that's like actually true or good advice. Like, but besides the point, I mean, I do think there's I won't say like every single creator we work with or will ever work with in the future has been an expert in their field for 20 years. Like, that is not true. I think that it's also about how you present the information. So a lot of a term we use a lot is like, this creator kind of explores this industry with you and is very curious and kind of shepherds you through their understanding of this industry, whether it's like AI or investment banking or venture capital. Like, it can be any of these things, so long as your tone and the way with which you're like explaining the content makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like there's just basically like different archetypes of quote unquote education, be it that like this is someone who is the expert who is speaking to experts, or someone who is learning with you as you go, et cetera, which both are very important in different ways, but like they're, it's different audiences that are intersecting, et cetera, et cetera.
100%. Some feel like a peer, some feel like a professor,
That's I love that. And we talk about series producer Campbell all the time, who is in his, in the midst of college doing studies around the future of cinema and television and digital content management. And it's sort of like, where exactly does he go with all of this? Obviously a big concern around in my household, but also an area of a lot of excitement, because to me, I look at guys like Jack and Gino, who I've been working longer than they've been alive. But they are taken seriously by me, among other people, because they are excited about understanding what's going on, right? They don't claim, I don't think, to be, deep experts in the whole thing. They're there to learn with you. And for me, it's exciting that opportunity is available, and not only available, but potentially lucrative,
100%. I think it's also like the creator diagnosing what their space needs. Like, Jack and Gino talk a lot about like, we want to just be lifting people up. Like, we think these people are doing amazing work. We want to like giggle and get to know them. This is the most creative industry in the world. Like, we want them to have personalities on our show and be light and not feel like they need to read, their PR person's talking points. We want to celebrate the individuals because this is such a creative industry. And that makes total sense for what marketing and advertising means. Then we have creators who are in more of like the tech and AI space, and they're like, oh my God, there's such a plethora of like shitty content about this stuff that is either fear mongering or intentionally like overwhelming people to feel behind, or it's super doomsday and this is the end of the world and you're never going to have a job again. So those creators often take an angle of like, I'm going to shoot it to you straight. I'm going to break down exactly how you can use something. I'm going to tell you what's actually not useful. And getting more tactical in that space is a lot more useful, which is very much not what Jack and Gino do. So it really does like depend on what the industry needs, and the creator being able to like actually recognize that. And they can only do that because they have such a great like understanding of their audience.
Kyle, this all is a little redolent though, if you take the other side of the coin of the Dazed article that we circulated in the chat about the idea of recap culture and this notion of like needing to follow along with people constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we draw the line? Kyle, you first.
I mean, well, look, again, this is like that B2B thing, like the B2B-ification of life. Like that is a feeling that I think whether or not you actually work in marketing or in a quote unquote B2B business is irrelevant, because I do think that like, you know, having an agenda to talk to your parents, like whether they know it or not, but just like guardrails and sort of like deliverables, even for a relationship, like that sort of like talks to the creep of like how business think and B2B think has really permeated all of life. And like that is, on one hand, there are some good things about that, and that like, you know, hey, it can put a structure to things that were otherwise structureless. But then it also like it really, again, to the point of Charlie XCX being a marketer, that then takes out the artistry, et cetera, et cetera. So when you go in to meet up with friends and it's like, do we have an agenda? Like, are we just catching up on things and blah, blah, blah. Then you're losing the joy of those relationships. And like, you lose the spontaneity, you lose the actual like,
I can't believe you're negating agendas for like friendly hangouts. Like you should clearly start any friendly hangout with an agenda where you go through the outline. Let's get a TOC up on screen at the wine bar, and
well, that gets like into this whole other culture of like all of this happened in COVID. Like COVID is the reason that we have all of this. And granted, a lot of this happening before, but like the thing that has really exacerbated it is that like, you know, the PowerPoint parties, which I fucking love that shit. But it's evolved into the PowerPoint party where everybody in the room explain what their job is. Who cares? Like, do you have a life or not? Like, who cares? I don't want to know what you do. Like, I don't, if you're paying your bill at dinner, I don't give a shit. Granted, if you're doing something fucked up, okay, I might want to know that, but I don't need a presentation. But like, that is like, it goes hand in hand. It's like that sort of idea of like work eclipsing the life, like you're doing more working than living, and therefore you just want to know your friends as coworkers more than people. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's such a weird.
Go ahead, Jen.
I was just gonna say, I think it's some type of like the need for friend hangouts to feel productive. I think is the like we have taken that productivity addiction that we have from like work and social media and then brought it to like friends hanging out and feeling like, okay, like, and I feel like I've sometimes been at, you know, if you're at like a broader friends of friends type dinner and like someone deviates the conversation topic away from the list of agenda items, and you can feel there's that person who's like, oh wait, we're off agenda. Wait, I heard you're going to Europe. What are we going to talk? Where are you going? Like, who cares? That's not interesting. Like,
to that point is like, I think it's from the top down, and not from that friend per se, but like it's from the top down of like, are you making a restaurant reservation? Like that's what sets a tone. Like first it's like, let's just meet up and like see what happens. Then it's like, no rules, just right. What the fuck are we going to do? Who knows? Who cares? But like that sort of like restaurant invitation or restaurant reservation, calendar invite, like email follow up, like, are we doing like, then it's just like, okay, this is a new thing. This isn't actually.
We've completely stripped the fun out of this.
Exactly.
But it does beg the question though, right? Like I agree. I violently agree with everything that was just said, and very much, as Kyle knows, I sort of dislike making plans because I would rather just go out and see what happens. But the question I guess I have for you, Jenny, is as you're advising people, or even just sort of thinking about the way that, you know, Smooth Media runs, like to what extent do you say, all right, enough, like you can't, your work can't be your life can't be your work, your creatorness can't be your personal expression shouldn't be your creativeness, because then you make yourself too vulnerable? Or and obviously I know the answer is probably subjective by person, but I wonder if you have any sort of broad guidelines around that. Like, what is your touch grass strategy for the people on roster? I hate that phrase, by the way, which is why I was smiling. But
it's unfortunately lost meaning. Yeah. I mean, I think I have separate answers for like we have a team now that we have 25, 30 people on the team. And I think we have a very strong like perspective on how we like to show up in the world, and we talk about it a lot. And it is also necessary, because unfortunately, like talent management companies don't have an amazing reputation for how their people operate, right? Like the biggest thing we come across with creators who don't want to say yes to us if we want to represent them isn't that they're working with someone else is that they'd rather do it alone because like management gives them the ick. And so our need to show up as just like the kind, intelligent, wise, calm human beings that we are. I really use the word calm a lot as being like, don't.
It's a good one.
Because especially in the, the creator economy, like jabronis, they're just too much. Like they're selling you something all the time. They need to tell you how smart they are. They need to tell you what brand they just met with. They need to come up with some crazy idea that's probably a bad idea, but they'll say it with such confidence that you think it's a good idea. And that's exactly the opposite of how I want us to show up, especially when we're talking to creators. We lead with questions, we lead with curiosity, we share, space together. We don't really come into those like early creator conversations with some crazy agenda or even really a pitch. It's supposed to be just like, here's what do you want to accomplish? What are you not getting from whatever situation you're in right now? What do you want to unlock? And how can we, as a human, think through that with you? Whether we're the right answer or not, that's not really the point. It's like, we want to just get to how we can help you. And then the relationship sets off from such a better foot. And I think that's kind of a tangent, but I do think it's about like just showing up as a human being and being normal and not selling something, not running through an agenda, not having a presentation. We don't share a deck. Like that's when we're just talking to a creator, like that's gross. That's not what they need. And so then we try to bring that to both like the more formal, like we have a meeting on the calendar, but also like our industry is so social. We're constantly meeting people. Like that's how we want to be showing up at events, at dinners, at coffee meetups, whatever. Like that's how I want the reputation I want our team to have, that thankfully I think that we do. But that's really important as we grow the team, is we're looking for people who can really like maintain that type of culture.
This seems really of the internet in a way, like, that like I would hope and expect for a non-traditional space that is increasingly becoming more traditional, that it would be met with something that is equally as non-traditional. But I think on top of that, leading with a sort of youth first approach. Like I think that is also a different way of operating than the traditional system. And to that, I'm curious, like the demographic of or age demographic of your clients, like do they lean more Gen Z? Or are they more millennial? Because like, I think that approach, I mean, I love it, but like, does that feel different when you're meeting with, say, like a literal boomer who is a creator who you want to work with?
Yeah, I was going to say, can we get some Gen X representation in here?
Yeah. We definitely have some Gen X for sure. I would say we skew, like millennial would definitely be the mode, if you will. But there's like, we represent probably some people in their 40s for sure. 40s and 50s. But then there's, a handful of Gen Zs. But I would say the millennial crop is certainly the largest. And I think it's, we tend to just work really well with people who like appreciate that type of energy and don't see it as a way of like, I think there are some creators who are like, I want to be sold and I want you to go to bat for me. And like, of course we want to do that, but that's not how we believe is the best way for you to actually build a business, is for the person representing your paying customer, which is your advertiser, in an asshole like way. We just don't think that's a good idea for your business.
Anybody who wants themselves to be represented as a commodity strikes me as like deeply short-sighted and odd, 100%. Frankly. But like that's an antisocial impulse.
Yeah, I agree.
As much as it's maybe it's a short-term successful one. Anyway, this is all weird. Jenny, when you're not playing with creators, what are you paying attention to? I'm curious, like where your touch grass, I use it again. God, I hate myself.
Yeah.
I mean, where are we?
I think within the business, I love thinking about like principles that will make us a great company that have absolutely nothing to do with media or content. Like,
give us an example.
So I love thinking about how do we present ourselves in the hiring process? We're doing a ton of hiring. And how can we make sure we're doing it our way and doing it differently? So like I spent one Saturday morning just thinking about that. And I was like, I'm only going to think about this. And after researching, I watched a couple of podcasts, watched a few YouTube videos. And I was thinking that if we're doing this burst of hiring, how do we make sure we don't fuck it up, right? Like hiring the wrong person is so bad for any company in any industry in the history of the world, right? So how do we make sure we don't do that? And we like changed basically how we run our final round interviews to be like, they are an hour long, what we're calling like a jam session. So they aren't traditional like question, answer. We do typically 2 to 4 different role playing scenarios, and different like activities. So for example, an account manager gets printed out 8 different email subject lines of like kind of things to deal with, whether it's like a creator's having a mental health crisis and they can't post this video, but it's really important and the sales team's really upset. The second is the brand, you actually messed up, you put the wrong link in the bio and the brand is really upset. A really great campaign wants a renewal, whatever, you get the point, and they're all printed out, and the person interviewing gets to sit there by themselves for like 10 minutes and like triage and basically order in priority how they would go about answering them, what they think is the most important. And then we come back and they explain their thought process, what questions they would ask, what actions they would take if there was something they would do after the fact to alleviate it going forward. And there's no right answer. Like, that's not really the point. It's just really a means of demonstrating how they think, how they would go about, handling a scenario, which is very important in like account management. You're dealing with fires all the time, no matter what. And so that is just like, that's a very specific example, but that's really what I'm just like really excited about, is how can we build an amazing company, and really create a place where people are challenged. We're bringing in the right people on board, where, people, like I always say to my team, if you're looking back after 6 months and you're like, I kind of feel the same. Like, I want you to feel like, oh my God, that person 6 months ago was a fucking idiot. Like, if you're not feeling that every 6 months, then we're not doing our job. And so finding ways to make our company feel that way for our employees and our team, I think gets felt a lot by the creators we work with and the brands we work with. Like, that's my favorite compliment to get, is like, Jesus Christ, your team is so good. Like, how did you find these people? Is like the compliment I get a lot, which I'm very proud of and want to continue getting.
Yeah.
That's so, okay. How much of it do you, not to like pat yourself on the back too much, but how much of it do you feel like comes down to your EQ, and how much of it do you feel like comes down to this process that you've put in place, or I don't know what, just like the fact that this is an incipient space, and so it is going to draw people who are, more interesting than the average bear type thing?
Well, yeah, I think there is so much luck to this. Like, I think of even like, I worked at Morning Brew from, when we were starting off right before we got bought, and nobody wanted to work in media. We were begging people to work there. Like, even when we were cool, and it was because everyone wanted to work at like the D2C companies or at tech, like no one wanted to work in media. I like am shocked by it still, that it's like, I think that the level of like applicants that we're able to talk to, the people in our industry who are looking for something new, like that is pure luck by our company's timing, right? That we're in a space
historical happenstance.
Yeah. But I think it's a personal interest more so for me than it is to just keep watching more and more YouTube videos and find more creators. Like, there are other people on our team who are way better at that than me. And I would so much rather think like, okay, how can I, set up the next 6 months of Smooth to really be the best we can. And it's all going to come down to the people we hire, the processes we have, the systems we have to make us, able to scale and serve our creators.
Question for you, because like all of this.
I'm tired of. I'm tired of.
Well, I have a question. You have to answer this. You have to represent Gen X. So you have to answer.
Okay, fine. Oh, it's God, like, here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
My least favorite question, where I have to put my generation on my back.
Yeah, exactly.
Go for it.
But like everything you're saying, Jenny, like I love, and I feel like I've worked at places like that with the same sort of mentality, which a lot of that comes from younger leadership and from people who are millennial, Gen Z, on the cusp, et cetera, sort of thinking about what they want not only the company, but the culture and the space physically, online, et cetera, to feel like. And I'm curious, Ben, like I know there are probably many overall. Obviously, hiring has always been the same, but like is the approach that and the sort of manner with which Smooth and Jenny, et cetera, are doing it, is that radically different than how, say, anybody in Gen X was doing it? You know what I mean? Like, is that unique?
Yeah.
Or is it pretty like,
I think when Jenny was telling that story, as I was listening to it, what I was thinking about was the famous interview questions that Google asks about like how many ping pong balls fit in a jet engine in an airline or whatever. They have some weird questions like this. These are famous questions, which I can't recite to you, but the idea basically is that they want to understand what a person's sort of methodology for solving a problem is, but B, they want to know that the person is essentially super smart and can calculate volume and volumetrics and, all of this stuff in one time. The thing that, as Jenny was talking about it, what struck me was it's like the idea that triage method isn't a function of getting the right answer or there being a correct answer, but rather understanding the person's problem solving skills, how they prioritize, where their experience has shown them that the greatest sort of flare up or the least urgent situation is. And that, I think, is that maybe is what's new. Millennials and Gen Z have grown up with answer engines, right? First search engines, and now really truly with AI with answer engines. And so getting the answer is not really the challenge anymore in a lot of respects, but getting to how you get to the answer and how valid that thing is and how easily it can fit into a process that other people can understand, that can be modular and scalable to a sort of a more widely understood or experienced ecosystem. That I think might be the new bit. If I may, the thing that I worry a little bit about is that I think also there is so much consideration given to every step of the process and some of the feelings involved in every step of the process that I worry that we sometimes mistake compassion for problem solving, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it could be that might be a little bit of a generational thing, that life experience or life stage change will help people understand where the actual rubber meets the road.
Definitely. It's like, we don't want to create yes, we want to all be emotionally intelligent, kind human beings, but we can never let that get in the way of getting things done, and like, we can't be, especially internally, like we talk about this frequently, of we don't want to be like dancing around each other's sensitivities or insecurities. Like, that's just not productive. That's not a healthy workplace environment. I think that you can very easily skew into the toxically positive work environment, which Absolutely. I think is gross, and is like, I'd almost rather you be obnoxious and direct and negative than be the like rah and pretend that everything's amazing when it's not. And
I have a great I have a friend who is a very high powered executive who, for years, I would hear her name whispered around companies that she worked with. Like, people were terrified of her. And I met her once and I was just like, oh, you're just Dutch. Like, she just, like, culturally, she just comes from a place of kind of truth telling. And because I had worked with Dutch people, had a sense of how that actually happens. In any case, I think
people are not being direct. I'll be like, be culturally Dutch right now. Tell me what you mean. Yeah,
just be Dutch. Right, exactly. Like, pretend you're Dutch. Just tell us what you actually think. The a little term came to me there while you were talking, Jenny, that which is emotionally executive. Like, in other words, somebody who can have their EQ tuned to the right place, but also understands that their job is to be executive, not to be emotionally like immersive or whatever.
100%. It's so relevant to the job that we do, where you are a creator's manager, and part of that, like, is being part therapist, part like understanding them as a human being. You are their manager. Like, you have to understand that. You would be doing a bad job if you didn't understand them as a human being and be able to really like relate with them and empathize with them. That said, what we say it's like written in our handbook of how to be a good manager. It's not to be a yes man. Like, if you are just relentlessly doing whatever your creator asks of you, or never pushing back on them on what they want to do next, or not keeping them focused, or telling them, that trip probably isn't worth it, don't do it, whatever. If you're not doing that, then you're doing a very bad job. And that doesn't mean, like, that may not always be what you want to hear. Like, if yesing them, that's their assistant. That's not their manager. And you are instructed to be their manager.
Yeah, that's not even a good assistant, by the way. That's a bad assistant too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it also goes to that point of what you said earlier, Jenny. Like, if you're not, as an employee at Smooth, seeing yourself as growing within 6 months, et cetera, like, it should be the same for the client too. Like, they should have that. And like, that is it technically a mentorship relationship? No, but like in an ideal situation, it is. They're both learning from each other. Both. I mean, that's true of any relationship.
Yeah,
I think oftentimes in business that disappears because one is maybe manipulating the other and mooching off the other. So like that is like, as long as that's central, like that is a recipe for success. Everybody feels validated, growth, et cetera, et cetera. Like that is what any relationship is about.
Definitely. It's like we are in a human business. We are not a technology company, right? Like if you can't really it's about getting the results and also making that person feel like they got the results that they wanted so that then they feel good about it. Like that really matters, because especially in the job of a creator that's so all consuming and exhausting, like if they don't feel supported by their team and like they're, unlocking the next level, or even if it's just to maintain is what they want, whatever, achieving what they want is what you need to be like making them feel like they're able to get with you.
I was saying it's also very different in ways in the creator space rather, versus say, traditionally actors, et cetera. They do have social media. You hear about this sometimes, but like, I feel like we hear more often the sort of like Instagram story from a creator who is like, I don't like my manager, or like blah, blah, blah. Like it's a group who has a finger closer to the button of being like, I'm going to vent about this relationship to a lot of people, and especially with a group of experts. No, like that is like clearly to that point is like like doing it all and then also managing that on top of it too is like, okay, let's not go on a tweet storm about a bad meeting.
100%.
Yeah. We could go on tweet storms all day about that. We could also continue this conversation all day, but unfortunately, we've got to call it at some point. Jenny, this has been really fun. Where do people find you, either to follow you personally or to follow Smooth, or I don't know?
Yes, you can find me personally on LinkedIn, and on Smooth, you can follow us on Instagram. We're smoothmedia.co on Instagram.
Nice. Well, I'm going to ask that you leave us with one last bit of advice. What's your number one bit of advice for somebody who wants to enter into this creator space and join the middle class?
Good question. I would say if you are in the creator space and you want to be a creator, I would say that having a true focus area and a beat that you are passionate about is so important. I think there will always be a different channel, a different way to monetize, a different platform launching. But if you are really passionate about the type of content you're making every day, then you can find the right path that works for you. But you're going to have to make content, a lot of it, and it's going to be a lot of work. So you want to do it about something that you really love.
That feels like very sage advice to me, Kyle.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, Jenny, thanks for being here. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We have these conversations between generations X, Y, and Z every week. And so we hope you'll tune in for some more in the future. In the meantime, go find Jenny and Smooth Media. Go find Kyle on Substack. Find me soon returning to Substack. And of course, in the meantime, have a great week, all of you. Bye.
Yeah.